What if the smallest kindness you gave years ago saved you today? The hotel lobby glittered like a pond under harsh sun. Marble floors, high ceilings, air that smelled like lemon and old money. The maid, her name was Amina, stood with a bucket and a frayed mop. Her hands were raw. Her uniform was clean but faded. On her wrist hung a thin blue thread, braided tight. It was her symbol of hope. Her mother had tied it there when she was a girl and said, "This thread reminds you who you are, steady, humble, and brave." Amina kept it hidden under her cuff, but she touched it when fear rose like smoke in her chest. Public humiliation came like a storm. The hotel manager, Mr. Cade, marched toward her. His suit was sharp. His voice cut. "You again?" he snapped. "How many times must I tell you? Guests first, then floors. The board is here for inspection. Do you want us to look like a roadside inn?" A cluster of new hires laughed. Not the laughter of joy. The laughter of people who want to be safe by standing next to a bully. Amina bowed her head. "I'm sorry, sir. The hallway by the conference room is muddy from the rain." "I thought." "You thought?" He echoed the word like it tasted bitter. "You thought? The only thing I want you to think about is not being seen. Get the coffee tray now." He flicked his fingers at the heavy silver set on the counter, the one with the wobbling leg. "Hurry. And smile, if you can manage." She lifted the tray. It was heavier than it looked. The cups rattled. The hallway stretched long and bright. Her palms were damp. She told her heart to slow down. Then the wobbling leg tilted. Porcelain clinked. The tray leaned to the left. She bit her lip. One cup slid, then another. Hot coffee splashed her wrist. Pain flashed. She did not cry out. Stairs landed like stones. The manager's voice rose. "Look at this. Look at this display. In front of the board." His hand cut the air. "Everyone, take note. Some people do not belong in fine places. Some people belong where floors are dirty." Amina bent down. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I will clean it. Please. Please?" His smile was thin. He raised his voice so the room could hear. "You want mercy? Mercy is for those who understand their place. You want to stay here? Pay for the cups. That is coming out of your wage. Every last coin." A murmur circled the room like a hawk. It had been a long time since anyone had defended Amina in public. She felt her cheeks heat. She felt small, smaller than small. Still, she kept her back straight. She picked up the cups. She wiped the floor with a cloth. She did not speak badly. She did not curse. She held her breath and counted slowly in her mind, the way her mother taught her: 1 kindness, 2 kindnesses, 3 kindnesses, even when no one sees. A voice drifted from the corridor, low and steady. "Let her stand." It wasn't loud. But something in the tone made people look up. A man spoke from the corner, skin the color of rich earth, beard neat, wearing plain gray clothes like a driver or a tech repairman. He carried a small case, the kind used to fix projectors. His name tag read, Dan. No one looked at him twice. He looked like a man who waited in shadows. "Who are you?" the manager snapped. "Maintenance," the man said softly. "The projector is flickering." "Then fix it and keep quiet." The manager waved him away. Amina rose with the empty tray. She passed the man named Dan. He didn't meet her eyes. But his head tilted for a heartbeat, like he was listening, not to the room, but to the hush inside her. Then he turned and walked on. Hope tastes sweetest when it first returns, but it can vanish like early mist. Later, in the service corridor, Amina pressed her wrist with a damp cloth. The burn stung. Her friend Zuri, a laundry clerk with bright eyes and quick hands, rushed in. "You okay?" I will be. Amina smiled, small. I have to be. You heard what he said about your pay? Amina nodded. I heard. Zuri blew out a breath. We will share tips with you this week. I will talk to the kitchen. You need your money, Amina said. Keep it. You stubborn goat, Zuri said, but her eyes were kind. If you don't let us help, I will tell the chef you have been skipping meals again. Amina almost laughed. I eat. Bread is not a meal, Zuri said. Bread is a promise. In Amina's pocket was an old photo, soft at the edges. Her mother, smiling in a blue dress, stood beside a dilapidated house with a mango tree. The ribbon on Amina's wrist had been cut from that dress. The house was gone now. The mango tree had been cut down. But the ribbon remained. Amina touched it. It was her small anchor in deep water. Back in the lobby, the board meeting gathered. Men and women in crisp suits, voices low. A projector hummed. Dan, the supposed maintenance worker, stood near the cables. He watched. He watched like a hunter who did not want to hunt anymore. He watched the manager laugh with a man in a navy tie. He watched Amina carry water, carry plates, carry the invisible weight of other people's comfort. Inside Dan's memory, other images lived. A night years ago. Rain like spilled beads. A small town bus stop with a flickering light. He had been hungry then, thin as a wire. He had walked out of a courtroom with empty hands and a bitter taste. The family company his father built had been swallowed by a vulture of a partner, slick contracts, wicked smiles, quiet threats. He had signed the wrong paper. He had trusted the wrong face. The partner had left him with debts that felt like stones in his stomach. He had sat on the curb with a cracked phone and no direction. Then the bus stop. A girl with a small bag, a blue ribbon at her wrist, had sat beside him. He remembered her voice like a song sung to an infant, soft, steady, full of clean air. You look like a man who needs hot tea, she had said. She had handed him a paper cup. He had tried to refuse. She had smiled. It is already paid. They had talked for a little while, not long. She had told him, when people try to take your name from you, you hide it in your chest and say it to yourself until it shines again. Then she had caught her bus. He had never seen her face clearly in the rain. Only her voice, and the blue ribbon at her wrist, had burned into his mind. He had rebuilt, slowly. He had taken odd jobs. He had met a mentor who taught him to see patterns in markets the way people see rivers in dry earth. He had bought back the shares, silently, through shells and shutters. He had risen again, not loud, not flashy, but sure as dawn. By the time the old company begged for mercy, he already owned half their debts. He had not ruined them. He had let them repay. But he had not forgotten the bus stop. He had not forgotten the voice with the ribbon. Now, in this hotel, he heard a voice spill a soft apology into a harsh room. It drew a line from the past to the present like a thread. He heard the tone, the cadence. He heard the gentleness that did not melt under fire. He heard the same voice. He moved like a man mending cables, but he listened like a man kneeling on holy ground. The meeting paused. The manager stepped into the hall, phone to ear. Yes, sir. The board is impressed. We will show them the new wing. Yes, the staff is competent. His eyes slid to Amina, standing by the door with a jug of water. He made a face. Most of them. He hung up and called across the hall. You, kitchen girl. Amina stepped forward. I am housekeeping, sir. Not today. Today you are my example. Come. The board should meet the face of our service. He led her to the front of the conference room. The board members glanced up. The projector washed the wall in soft blue light. The manager smiled and placed a hand on Amina's shoulder with the ease of a man who knows he can do what he wants. This is Amina, he said, bright voice ringing. She is hardworking, but sometimes clumsy. We are training her. In our hotel, we believe in second chances, when they are earned. He lifted a cup from the table. Amina, pour for the chairwoman. She reached for the jug. The manager shifted his hand at the last second. Her elbow hit the edge of the table. Water sloshed. A splash dotted the chairwoman's sleeve. A sound rose from the room like a hiss. Amina froze. Her heart hit the dust. I'm sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry. Please. The manager spread his hands, as if to say, see? See what I must deal with? He turned to the room. We train. We invest. But some fruit will not ripen. Shame burned like sun on salt. Amina gripped the jug so hard her fingers ached. The chairwoman dabbed her sleeve, eyes cool. The manager smiled the smile of a man who has tasted cruelty and found it sweet. The room looked away. No one wanted to touch her sadness. No one wanted to catch it. The projector flickered. It went black, then bright again. The maintenance man's hand moved behind the cart, steady. The manager snapped his fingers in annoyance. Fix that, he barked. Amina stepped back. Her eyes were wet, but she would not let the tears fall here. Not here. Not for him. And if this story has already caught your heart, take a breath, click like, and subscribe, because what happens next will make your pulse race. Now, watch what this night will do to their world. She slipped into the corridor to bring towels. That was when the accident happened. A service cart rolled out of a blind corner. The wheel stuck. The cart tipped. Glass flutes slid off like fish from a net. They shattered on the tile with a sound like rain turning to knives. Amina slowed the cart with her hip, catching the heaviest tray. Glass shards glittered at her feet. Her hip throbbed. She gathered the pieces with careful fingers, one by one. The manager appeared, breathing like he owned the air. Again, he said, voice sharp with false surprise. Again? It was the wheel, she said softly. It is always something with you, he said. Do you know what new glassware costs? Do you think we grow money in flower pots? He took out his phone. Security, escort her to the back office. A guard with a hard face appeared. He did not look at Amina, only at the manager's mouth, waiting for orders. The manager smiled at the board as they filed past. Apologies, he dripped. We maintain high standards. In the back office, the walls were beige. The air was stale. A single camera sat in the corner, red light on. The manager closed the door with a soft click. You make me look like a fool. Do you know what that does to a man like me? He paced. He loved his own words. Perhaps this place is too fine for you. Perhaps you should find work where spills are expected. Amina kept her hands folded. Sir, please. I send money home. I can work nights. I can take extra rooms. Please. He leaned on the desk. Then sign this. He slid a paper toward her. It states you will accept deductions for damages and training. Standard policy. She read the lines. The numbers were cruel. They would swallow her wage like a pit swallows light. Her throat tightened. This says I will work extra hours without pay. He smiled. You learn to read. She met his eyes. My mother taught me to read every word. Your mother? His mouth curled. Is she going to protect you here? He tapped the paper. Sign. Her fingers hovered. The red camera light watched. The security guard stood behind her. She heard her heart like a drum. She thought of the blue ribbon on her wrist. I will not sign this, she said softly. The manager's face changed. The maker of polite smiles peeled away. Something colder came forward. Then we are done. Please. He leaned close, voice low, every word a stone. Do you think I fear you? Do you think anyone in this city cares what you say? I am the one who recommends renewals. I am the one who writes references. I am the one who decides who eats more than bread. You are a drop in a bucket. I am the bucket. A knock. The door opened a finger's width. The maintenance man's voice slipped through. Sorry. Projector is done. Do you need anything else? The manager's eyes flicked toward the door. No, he smiled at the guard. Escort her out. She is finished. The guard placed a hand near Amina's arm. He did not touch her. He did not need to. The message was clear. Amina stood. She bowed her head. She walked past the maintenance man. She wanted to scream. She wanted to fight. Instead, she touched the blue ribbon and told herself, one kindness, two kindnesses. When a door closes, you don't beg the door. You look for a window. She stepped into the rain outside the loading dock. It fell in sheets, dense, relentless. This was the cliff's edge. No job. No savings. A rent bill due in 3 days. A brother at home who needed school fees. A mother whose voice lived only in memory now, soft as cloth. Inside, the manager returned to the lobby with a smooth face and a ready lie. Unfortunately, some staff do not meet standards, he told the board. We make swift choices. That is why our guest satisfaction is the highest. He basked in nods. He believed in his own invincibility. He did not fear the camera in his office. He had forgotten it was on. He had forgotten that technology can remember what pride hopes to erase. Amina walked through the rain without an umbrella. The road outside the hotel pooled and bubbled. She stopped under a small awning behind the building. She pressed her forehead to the cool wall. The rain drummed. She closed her eyes. Mother, she whispered, I am trying. Footsteps. The maintenance man stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, hair damp. He did not come close. His voice was the kind that made other voices quiet down so they could hear it. There is a tea stall across the street, he said. The ginger is strong. It helps with shock. She almost smiled. I cannot afford it. It is already paid, he said. The same words from years ago, folded and offered back. He gestured with his chin. Will you walk? She hesitated. Then nodded. They crossed to a tin-roofed kiosk where a woman poured tea from a dented kettle. Steam rose. The air smelled like ginger, milk, and rain-wet earth. They stood under the low roof, close enough to be sheltered, far enough to be decent. The tea woman slid 2 cups toward them. Drink, she said. It makes the heart stand up straight. Amina's hand shook as she lifted the cup. The first sip sent heat down to her toes. She tried not to cry in front of a stranger. The man stared at the street. What happened in there? He asked quietly. She told him, plain and simple. She did not decorate. She did not dramatize. She spoke of the tray, the cart, the office, the paper with its cruel terms. She spoke of rent and family and the blue ribbon on her wrist. He listened without interrupting. You did not sign, he said. I did not, she said. I could not. That will cost you. It already has. He nodded once, like he was using the word cost in a larger way. You will not always be poor, he said, and it did not sound like consolation. It sounded like a weather report. Today is not forever. She laughed, small and raw. Today feels like forever. He turned his head at her laugh. His eyes were calm, the way rivers are calm even when they carry strength. Years ago, he said, I sat at a bus stop with rain in my shoes and nothing in my pocket. A stranger gave me hot tea. She said a sentence I have not forgotten. His voice softened. She said, when people try to take your name from you, you hide it in your chest and say it to yourself until it shines again. Her fingers tightened around the cup. The world tilted a little. The rain pressed its palms against the tin roof. I said that, she whispered, before she could stop herself. He stared at her wrist. The ribbon. Blue, faded, braided. His mouth opened, then closed. He did not reach for her. He did not declare anything. He simply breathed out, slow. I thought so. Hope rose like smoke, then thinned. Because hope is shy. It is easily startled by reality. Amina put the cup down. I should go, she said. Zuri will be worried. He nodded. Will you be here tomorrow? I do not know. Come to the same stall. Morning. If you want. Why? Work, he said. A different kind. She looked at his plain gray clothes and his toolbox. She remembered the boardroom. She remembered the manager's laugh. You are maintenance, she said. Sometimes, he said, with a half smile. Why would you help me? Because someone helped me, he said. And because I have been watching. She blinked. Watching? Not like a spy, he said. More like a student. Watching how you move in a harsh place without letting the harshness move into you. Her throat burned again. Not from shame. From something like gratitude. I will come, she said. Then until morning. The next day, the sky was a dull gray. Amina came early to the tea stall. She wore the same uniform. She had washed it by hand. She had ironed it with a borrowed iron. She had tied the blue ribbon tight. He arrived with the same toolbox. He paid for tea again. Before we begin, he said, tell me what you want most. Safety, she said. The word came out before she could think. Safety for my family. And work that does not crush the spirit. You will have both, he said. Again, not a pep talk. A plan. They walked to a small office in a side street. It was simple, 2 desks, a potted plant, a map on the wall with pins. On the door was a modest sign, Mascani Partners, Community Procurement. He opened the door, waved her in. A woman in a bright yellow headscarf looked up and smiled. Boss, she said to the man, you are late. Traffic, he said, deadpan. Traffic, she snorted. And the rain, and the price of onions, and the moon's mood. She turned to Amina. Welcome. I am Halima. Tea? Thank you, Amina said, a little breathless. What is this place? A company, the man said. Mine. Her eyes widened. You said you were maintenance. Maintenance is not a lie, he said. I maintain things. Usually the kinds that break without warning. Systems. People's trust. Dreams. Amina blinked. What work would I do? Halima slid a folder across the desk. We audit service contracts. We teach staff their rights. We set up fair hiring pipelines. We correct places that think respect is optional. Amina opened the folder. Inside were pages that looked like the paper the manager had tried to force on her. But these pages were clean. Clear. Honest. You want me to help? We want you to lead the pilot at a hotel, Halima said. She grinned. A very specific hotel. Amina's stomach flipped. No. Yes, Dan said softly. No, Amina said again, shaking her head. They will crush me. The manager, he has friends. He has ways. He will turn it all into dust. He will try, Dan said. But he is weaker than he looks. He is strong only where people bow. What would I need to do? She asked, voice barely there. Collect stories, Halima said. Document policies. Identify holes. Train staff in quiet ways. We will handle the legal. We will handle the board. We do not shout. We set the table so truth can sit down. Amina ran a finger along the ribbon at her wrist. Why me? Because you are careful, Dan said. Because you are kind. And because you will not sign away your name. She looked up. I will try. He nodded. Sometimes trying is the deal that moves mountains. She smiled for the first time in many days. But she did not know that from a tinted car window across the street, someone else was watching, and their interest was not mercy. The days that followed were a dance on hot stones. Amina returned to the hotel as a regular guest. She wore a plain dress. She sat in the cafe with a notebook. She did not stare. She listened. She spoke to staff on their breaks. She learned the schedule. She learned which cameras were real and which were just for show. She saw how the manager cut hours on the roster and reported more to the head office. She watched him take tips from envelopes meant for staff parties. She saw him stage small accidents to justify deductions. She saw a cleaner named Musa forced to scrub a lobby fountain with bare hands as guests filmed and laughed. Her stomach tightened, but she looked, and she kept looking, and she wrote. Halima trained her to ask questions like a tailor taking measurements. Dan provided cover, a fake inspection job, a modest badge, a line manager who respected the law. Slowly, they built a file that was not loud but was heavy with truth. Then the strike hit. Not from the staff. From the manager. A rumor began to flow like oil on water. Amina was a troublemaker. She was seen talking to outsiders. She was plotting to sue. He called a meeting where he praised himself for charity and hinted that some people wanted to destroy the hotel's family. He showed a photo of Amina in the cafe and said, "This is the face of ingratitude." He did it publicly. He loved public. He used public to make people small. Security began to shadow her. The waiter who smiled at her yesterday was cold today. Zuri hugged her in the laundry room and whispered, "Be careful." Amina's chest was tight for 2 days. She walked like a person carrying glass in her ribs. Then came the trap. A guest reported that a bracelet was missing from a suite. The bracelet was said to be worth a year's rent. Cameras showed Amina passing the corridor that afternoon with a service tray, which she carried for old time's sake to keep her cover. The manager called the police. He called the board chair. He made sure the lobby was full when the officers arrived. He told his favorite story, "We are a family. But sometimes a snake sneaks in." They searched her bag. They found the bracelet. It lay in the pocket, wrapped in tissue like it belonged there. Amina's knees went weak. She tasted metal in her mouth. "I did not take this," she said. "I have no idea how it came into my bag." The manager raised his hands, showing empty palms like an actor. "What a pity," he said. "What a sorrow." The police looked bored. They had seen this play before. They reached for her elbow. Dan stood by the column near the concierge desk. He was dressed the same as always, gray, plain. He did not move. He watched. He had insisted on watching for weeks, even when it made his soul feel like it was under a boot. He watched because sometimes the only way to win is to let evil do its full dance where the light is bright. Amina looked for him, then stopped. She remembered that hope can be shy. She steadied herself alone. "May I speak?" she asked the officers. "Speak at the station," the manager said smoothly. "We will not make a scene." He loved that he could say that while making a scene. Amina closed her eyes for a moment. Long enough to find the blue ribbon. She whispered to herself, "Amina. Amina." She said her name. She remembered its meaning, to be safe, to be trustworthy. "I did not take this," she said again, louder now. "I am being framed." Laughter choked the lobby. A throat cleared. The board chairwoman, the same woman with the dabbed sleeve from days ago, had stepped out of the elevator and paused. She watched. The manager lifted a hand to smooth the moment. "Officers, it is best to proceed. This is a private property matter." Dan stepped forward, finally. His voice carried like a gem beat under soft voices. "Wait." He didn't shout. He didn't need to. He held up a small device, simple as a remote. "Play it." The lobby screen, a loop of beach scenes, blinked. The image changed. Not a beach. A view from the office camera, red light on. The manager at his desk. The same beige walls. The same oily smile. He slid a jewelry box across the table. He removed a bracelet. He wrapped it in tissue. He folded and unfolded, as if thinking. He stood. He walked to the service corridor. The date in the corner told the whole story. "Stop this," the manager barked. "This is illegal. This is." The image jumped to another camera, the service corridor, the same afternoon. The manager looked left, right. He placed the tissue in a housekeeping bag on a cart. He walked away, whistling. The video paused on his face, framed in the doorway. No doubt. No wiggle. No mist. Silence. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy kind, like the air before lightning. The officer stared. The board chairwoman stared. The staff stared. The manager stared at the screen and felt his life shrink 2 sizes. The chairwoman spoke first. "Who authorized this recording?" Dan looked at her. "You did." His tone was flat. He knew the contract number, the clause, the part about integrity audits. He had signed it with his left hand while his right hand was paying the hotel's debts through a holding company 2 months ago. He had set this moment like a drum waiting for a hand. The manager laughed, wild, desperate. "Who are you?" he spat. "Maintenance?" Dan's mouth moved in a half-smile that did not reach his eyes. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. This one was not plain. Simple black letters. A name. A company. A weight. The chairwoman read it first. Her eyebrows lifted. She looked at him anew, like a villager who has realized the traveler is a chief. "Mr. Daniel Kanga," she said softly. "The investor." The crowd's hum turned. Dan did not bask. He spoke to the officers. "Kindly remove the hand from that innocent woman's arm." He spoke to the chairwoman. "We will discuss an extraordinary session with the board today." He spoke to the manager. "No softness now. You will sit down." The manager tried to laugh again, but the sound died in his throat. He sat. Triumph tastes sweet. But it can wake old enemies. They moved to a conference room. The board. The chairwoman. Dan. Amina, with Halima at her side now. Security waited outside, not for Amina anymore, but for the man who had believed he owned other people's names. Dan spoke plain facts. He showed documents. He showed policies. He showed the video clips that revealed more than one act of quiet cruelty staged for deductions. The chairwoman's face tightened. "I did not know," she said. "You did not ask," Dan said, not unkindly. "That is how men like him build kingdoms." The manager began to talk fast. "This is an attack. This is a conspiracy. She is trying to ruin us because she is bitter." Amina looked up. "I am not trying to ruin anyone," she said. "I am trying to work." Dan put a simple folder on the table. "These are staff testimonies," he said. "Some are anonymous. Some are brave." The chairwoman leafed through. She read. She set her mouth. "This is over," she said, turning to the manager. "You are suspended, effective immediately. Security will escort you. You will surrender your devices." The manager stood, shaking. You think you can do this to me? I will call my people. Call them, Dan said. Call the ones who take tips from envelopes. Security opened the door. The manager started to speak again, but the words dried up. He left with a face like hard clay. Halima squeezed Amina's hand under the table. Amina's heart softened and grew strong at the same time. Her hands were no longer shaking. She could feel the ribbon on her wrist, warm. The chairwoman turned to Amina. We owe you an apology, she said. And a job. Not in housekeeping. In compliance. If you will have it. Amina swallowed. I will. Dan did not smile. Not yet. He had learned to wait for the last shoe to drop. Because life often has one more turn on the road. The shoe dropped in the form of a letter delivered by a quiet man with a quiet tie. He placed it in front of Dan. The letterhead belonged to the old partner, the vulture with the slick contracts from Dan's past. The man who had stripped his name down to bone. The letter was simple, a hostile bid, a threat disguised as an offer, a reminder that they remembered Dan, too. A clause mentioned the hotel's debts. A clause mentioned a loan coming due at dawn in 2 weeks. Halima read over his shoulder. They want to force a sale, she said. They want to take the hotel chain and all sister properties. The chairwoman paled. They can do this? They can try, Dan said. Amina watched his jaw tense. She saw a shadow cross his eyes, the kind shadows do when an old wound thinks it might open again. He turned to her, voice quiet. This will get loud. I am not afraid of loud anymore, she said. Good, he said, and at last, he smiled. She had everything she asked for, safety, honest work, a clean name. But why do falls often open the door to higher ground? Because losing what is false makes space for what is true to land. The next days were a war fought with paper and light. Dan moved funds like a farmer waters a field during drought, careful, precise, never wasteful. He called in favors he had earned by not humiliating rivals when he could. He reorganized the debt. He made partners of former enemies. He offered the board a plan that gave them dignity. He put Amina at the front of training sessions. She wore a modest suit now. Not expensive. Clean. Her hair pulled back. Her voice steady. Staff listened with wide eyes. She taught them to read every word. She taught them to say no when no was right. She taught them to hold their names close. Zuri cried in the kitchen and then laughed at herself for crying. Look at you, she said, wiping her eyes. Look at you. The manager, meanwhile, fumed at home, calling anyone who would listen. Most didn't. Those who did hung up when they heard the word video. He drove by the hotel at night, hating the light behind the glass. He wrote an angry message he never sent. He drank tea that tasted like ash. On the day the old partner made his move, the hotel's conference room was full again. The old partner arrived in a dark suit that looked like money had ironed it. He smiled the way crocodiles smile. Daniel, he said. I heard you were alive. Alive, Dan said. And not hungry. The old partner chuckled. He looked at Amina like she was a fly. This is your assistant? Compliance officer, Dan said. And the reason you are here? Because she found a bracelet? Because she found a spine, Halima muttered. The old partner opened his folder. Terms. Threats. Deadlines. He explained how the chain would be better under his care. He spoke of efficiency. He spoke of streamlined staffing. He spoke of trimming excess human cost. Amina felt the room lean cold. She took a breath. We have testimonies, she said evenly. We have evidence. We have a public ready to believe the truth. If you take this place with the same knife you used years ago, people will see the blood this time. The old partner laughed. You think the public cares about staff rosters? They care about stories, Dan said. And this story has a villain who is late to his lesson. The old partner's eyes narrowed. Bold words. Old words, Dan said. I learned them at a bus stop. Then he laid out his counter. It was not a trick. It was simple math made human. He had found an investor in the chain's regional supply network, women who owned laundries, men who managed farms, people the old partner had called excess. He offered them equity at fair prices. He had secured a bridge loan with collateral the old partner did not know he still owned. He had convinced the board with dignity, not with fear. He had read every clause, every comma, and he had found the one place where the old partner had been sloppy, a residency requirement in the takeover entity that was not met. The room leaned warm again. The old partner's smile cracked. You think you can box me out with villagers? Villagers built this city, Dan said. They can buy a hotel. The chairwoman signed the papers. The old partner stood too fast, the chair scraping. He looked at Amina one last time as if trying to place her. Be careful, he said softly, voice like oil. People like you become attached to people like him. People like him do not stay. He left with steps that pretended not to run. A strange quiet followed, like the hush after a storm. Then the room exhaled. Hands were shaken. Words were spoken. Halima laughed like a bell. Zuri did a small dance and then climbed onto a chair to make a joke, then climbed down when she realized she was on camera. The chairwoman clapped Amina on the shoulder, a real clap, not a pat. You saved us from ourselves, she said. What do you want as a bonus? Amina swallowed. Staff bathrooms that lock. Real gloves. Real training. A fund for emergencies. And fair pay, written in a way no one can twist. The chairwoman blinked. Then she nodded. Done. She smiled at Dan. You choose good people. He nodded toward Amina. Good people choose themselves. That night, the hotel lobby glowed. Not because it had always glowed, but because it felt different. Lighter. Amina stood by the window and watched the city move. The glass reflected her face. She looked older than she had last week. She liked it. Dan came to stand at her side. He carried 2 cups of ginger tea. Always paid, he said, handing her one. She laughed. Always paid. They drank without speaking for a few moments. Rain tapped the glass. Somewhere, a drum sounded in the distance, but maybe it was her heart. I have something to tell you, Dan said finally. She turned. What? He breathed in. I am not a simple investor. I am, what they call rich. He said the word like it was a paper he did not enjoy carrying. Very rich. She blinked. I guessed. He smiled, surprised. You did? You walk like a man who owns his time, she said. And you listen like a man who learned what truly matters the hard way. He grew quiet. I did. He looked at her ribbon. You helped me when I was on the ground, he said. You saved a piece of me I thought was gone. His voice softened more. I have been watching not to control, but to learn when to step in without stealing your story. She looked at him, at the lines at the corner of his eyes. You did not steal it, she said. You held the light so I could see the door. He laughed gently. There is one more thing. What? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a photocopy from a file found in the manager's desk before he was escorted out. It had her name. It had something else. A birth record. A number. A signature. Amina read. The words blurred. It was a copy of a document that named her father. A father she had only known as a shadow. A father who had left before she could remember his face. A father connected to a family she had never dared to imagine. The name was not a stranger's. Her heart wanted to run, then sit, then run again. She laughed once, a sound of disbelief. "This is a joke." "It is not," Dan said. "We found it among other papers. He was using it to control you, if he ever needed to. He never got the chance." Her eyes filled. Tears came now, hot and honest. "What do I do with this?" He looked at her with that quiet river calm. "Whatever you want." She held a letter that could break another life. What would you do if a paper in your hand offered revenge or forgiveness? Days later, Amina stood outside a low, clean house with a metal gate. The town was quieter than the city. A mango tree inside the yard bent low with fruit. A woman stood on the porch, hands clasped. She looked like Amina around the eyes. She was not a stranger. She was a sister she had never met. They spoke in the shade, voices low. They did not shout. They did not accuse. The truth stepped into the yard like an old man entering a room. The story was complicated, as most true stories are. A father who ran not because he was wicked but because he was weak. A woman who raised a girl alone and braided a blue ribbon from a dress she loved. A family that had sent money in secret for a while, then stopped when shame hardened into silence. A man who had left this world quietly years ago. He would not answer for himself. Amina felt the ache of old wanting. She also felt something else. A soft, deep peace that did not depend on anyone kneeling. She put the paper back in the envelope. "I will not tear a name to make mine bigger," she said. "But I will not hide my own anymore." Her sister nodded, tears in her eyes. "Come to dinner," she said. "We will burn the old bones and make soup from new water." Amina laughed at the phrase. It was an old saying her mother used to whisper when starting over. "We will." Back in the city, the hotel changed slowly. Not all at once. The tiles were still the same. The lights still hummed. But the air was different. People walked a little taller. Gloves appeared by sinks. Deductions shrank. Apologies, real ones, were learned like new words. The manager's desk was empty, then filled by someone quieter, someone who listened more than he talked. The video remained, a lesson in a time when lessons were few. Amina's work grew. She traveled to other hotels. She sat in rooms where no one expected to see her. She asked questions. She carried her ribbon. She carried her name. Dan's world grew too, but in a different direction. He learned to stay in rooms longer. He learned that some fights do not end when papers are signed, they end when habits change. He kept his plain gray clothes for certain days. He found he liked tea more than wine. He visited the bus stop once, stood under the flickering light that had been replaced by a brighter bulb, and left a note, "Thank you, to whoever makes strangers brave." One evening, weeks later, Amina and Dan walked by the water. The city's lights blinked like fireflies. The wind smelled like salt and diesel. They did not hold hands. They did not need to. They talked about small things, Zuri's new baby cousin, Halima's never-ending collection of proverbs, the chairwoman's habit of tapping her pen when she was about to agree. Dan stopped and turned to her. "What do you want next?" he asked. She looked at the water. "A house with a door that locks from the inside," she said. "A garden. Work that keeps growing. And, maybe, a family that is chosen, not just given." He nodded. "Those are good wants." "What about you?" she asked. He thought of the old partner, of letters with sharp edges, of nights when he had thought he was done. He thought of a blue ribbon in rain. "To use wealth like a tool, not like a mirror," he said. "And to never forget the taste of ginger tea in a storm." They stood quiet for a while. A message chimed on Dan's phone. He frowned, then smiled, then frowned again. "What is it?" Amina asked. "An offer," he said. "From a foreign chain. To buy our stake for a number that would make most men dizzy. And a rumor," he added. That the old partner is building something new with a different mask. Amina sighed. They do not stop. Neither do we, he said. They began to walk again. The path curved. The night carried secrets like seeds on the wind. Some would land. Some would not. Moral. Kindness is not weakness, it is a steady hand that holds a door open in storms. Dignity is not given by titles, it is protected by choices made when no one is watching. Wealth does not make a person great, the use of it does. And a name, once kept safe in the chest, can light the way for others.